All right, try this again. Parked in a nice little pullout, but it is busy, so it will be loud, I'm sure. Sorry about that. Sorry if the audio is bad. I'm just freeballing it with my phone here. I guess this is a machine check. If you guys want to listen to me ramble for what will probably be 20 plus minutes, probably not, but if anybody happens to care, I do anyways. It's fun to sort of bookmark my progress now that the car is kind of at a state where I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, there's a few things I'd like to do still to the car, but I would say this thing is, 75, 80% done. I don't want to do a whole lot of other stuff that you can really see visually, I guess. But there's a few things. So I'll start with just the spec of the car, I suppose, and then maybe I'll go through the stuff I've done to it. So it is a 2009 E92 M3. It has like just under 100,000 miles right now, so 159,300 kilometers or something like that. I bought the car in 2020 out of Calgary. I got it off an older guy that had owned it for a few years. He was the second owner, and I'm the third, obviously. So it's a 2009, it's Alpine White, it's pre-LCI, so it has the older style taillights. It is a stripper spec, I guess is what they call it. So, I mean, all that means is no options, but it's as close to a stripper as you can get in Canada. So the Canadian E92 M3s all came with the cold weather package, as far as I know. Maybe there were a few people that had individual cars and they somehow didn't get a cold weather package, but the cold weather package basically is a ski boot through the rear seat and heated seats and with headlight washers. So yeah, it's other than that, it's basically base model, and it also has individual audio. So I think in the US, as far as I know, again, maybe a few people that had individual orders when they were new did happen to get no navigation and individual audio, but I've only seen one other car actually that's this spec, and it's also a Canadian car, so it's Alpine White, speed cloth, and individual audio. So yeah, I don't have the front seats in it, obviously. I've got the SPGs in there, so, but it is speed cloth. You can see the rear seats, kind of the door panels are a different material. They're sort of this Alcantara. They're not Alcantara. They're like anthracite or whatever. They match the headliner really well, which is nice. I think this is the same headliner that's in any of the interior colors for the M3. Maybe even just the LCI regular 3 Series. Yeah, so that's mostly the spec of the car. When I got the car, it was completely stock. It had black kidney grills. It seems like a lot of the pre-LCI, especially Alpine White cars, came with black kidney grills. I'm not sure why that is, but I've seen very few of the pre-LCI cars that are untouched that actually have the chrome grills. So the pre-LCI chrome ones also would have had chrome on the slats. So I switched these out for chrome LCI style grills. Used to like the black when I got the car, and I was thinking about doing black side markers. And then, I don't know, I'm old now. Kind of like the chrome old guy spec. Chrome kidneys on a BMW just kind of seems right to me. So yeah, I think they look nice with the stock headlights because there's some chrome stuff in there, and the chrome side markers. What else? Yeah, Exterior wise, I think that's kind of the only thing I've done that isn't wheels and tires. Yeah, so they're Enkei NT03 M's. They're 18 by 10 plus 25 square. I'm running Continental Extreme Contact Force in 275, 35, 18. I'm running a like 3mm or 5mm spacer, something like that, just a little slip-on spacer. It fits pretty good. I don't really have any rubbing issues. I did take them off when I did a track day, just to try and save the fender liners a little bit. I wasn't sure kind of what steering angles I would get up to, but it does rub a little bit just at the very back. I mean, it's not wearing through really, but it does tickle it once in a while. So yeah, without the spacers in there, it's pretty close to the strut, but it does not rub the strut, or spring I should say, and it does not rub the fender liners. So 18 by 10 plus 25 with a 275/35. I know everyone says to just run that size, but they are correct. It does fit perfectly with no issues at all. Yeah, I did have a muffler delete that my friend Brock fabricated for me. It was great, sounded really good with the stock X pipe. Droney on the highway, obviously. I mean, it's, you know, if you get rid of the mufflers on a car, you're going to get some drone, especially in a car like this. They're prone to being droney. But yeah, I went back to the stock muffler, actually, because I did... Yeah, I guess, okay, I'll just go through the mods now, I guess. The modifications, bro. Yeah, so maybe I'll do it chronologically, whatever. Who cares? No one's watching. I'm just watching this. So, okay. First thing I did when I got the car, I did wheel spacers. I put some 12mm spacers with the stock wheels. And I did an RTD shifter right away. My friend Henderson had an E92 M3 that I drove back in like 2016.
What are you doing? We'll put it out.
He had an RTD shifter in it, and yeah, really liked it. The Japanese cars tend to have better shifters, especially stock, I think. Like Nissan shifters feel really good to me. Honda shifters feel really good to me. Stock BMW shifters are not good. So thanks BMW for making manuals for as long as you have, but the shifters aren't that great. Sorry, there's cars going by and I'm sure this is loud. Anyways, so yeah, I drove that E36 with the RTD and I really loved it. I mean, they feel pretty good to me. I haven't tried a CAE or anything like that, but the RTD, this is the mini height one, so it's not like, you know, hilariously tall up by the steering wheel. So like for a car, I mean, I've gone to the track in this thing. I'd like to track a little bit more too, but you know, this is just a summer car to enjoy driving, you know, enjoy some back roads, take on a road trip. I know the seats are kind of stupid for that, but they look cool. Cool chairs are important. But yeah, the RTD, it, you know, from everything I've heard, it's kind of like 80% as good as a CAE. It doesn't have a reverse lockout, which going 3-2 on track, if you're like, you know, not relaxed and you're kind of overthinking it, you can sort of get into that reverse gate a little bit if you're panicking. But I mean, yeah, like once I, you know, did a session, I had no issues. You know, I mean, it can't be much worse than a stock shifter. So yeah, what else? So after I did the CAE, I did the muffler delete. So I had the muffler delete, and that was good with the stock X pipe. But now I have an X pipe, which I'll get to in a minute. After the shifter, actually, I shouldn't say that. I kind of forgot. Before the shifter, I did actually put a old Zeta 2 that I had kicking around after I sold my 180, and I had the Zeta in my E46 M3 that I had before this car, which maybe I'll talk about a little bit at the end. Yeah, so I had a Zeta 2, so I basically did like a chair and a shifter, just touch points, you know. So the car felt great after that. It was really fun to drive, even with the stock suspension. Definitely pretty grand tourer, you know. It did not feel like a sports car. It felt a little sportier with the exhaust, but it did not, I don't know, it definitely wasn't a sports car. Like, it didn't feel like an old, you know, Japanese shipbox car that you can throw around, and they feel heavy stock. That's basically it. I mean, I know everyone complains about the weight of these things, especially with the lack of torque, which, I mean, whatever, how fast of a car do you need on the road? I'm old. This is fast enough to get in more than enough trouble for me. So yeah, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so the next thing I did after the shifter and the seat, obviously, was coilovers. I went with Olin's Road and Track. I bought them from FCP Euro. FCP Euro is pretty notorious for their lifetime warranty on literally anything, so I kind of figured, you know, if I ever part the car out or whatever, I can get a fresh set and, you know, sell them that way. Whatever, I don't know if you're allowed to do that. I mean, that's just honoring warranty as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, I really like these coilovers. I have tried all kinds of cheaper Japanese coilovers. I had KW V2s on my E46 M3. The KWs were noticeably nicer than any of the Japanese stuff that I've had before. But the Olins are even kind of a step above that. So I forget that this car has coilovers all the time. It's not super low. It doesn't really scrape a whole lot on anything, but it is like nearly as comfortable as stock. I mean, it's probably more comfortable than stock because the stock suspension was old when I took it off, you know. I mean, had 80,000 miles on it or whatever, you know, 130,000 kilometers. So yeah, it's extremely comfortable. I usually run them fairly open on the street, you know, like maybe a third of the way up damping wise, and I would say like 3/4, 7/8 of the way up on track. I always leave them one click higher. I think it's a rebound adjustment, but you know, the rebound and compression circuit, they're kind of linked on these one-way adjustable coilovers. But yeah, so I always run one click firmer up front than in the rear, for no reason other than that just seems like how you set up a car for neutral handling. I don't know, I'm just guessing. Feels good. Yeah, so I used to have Firestone Firehawk Indy tires. I did kind of talk about the wheels and tires, but I'll go over those a little bit. So I had the Firestone Firehawk Indies, which they're pretty good tires. You know, at the time I bought them, it was like right at the beginning of COVID. Nothing was really in stock. I kind of wanted to just get RE71s, which would have obviously been a lot better. I missed the Costco sale because I did not read the fine print that you have to purchase before. It was like a one-day sale. Anyways, so the Firehawk Indies, I think they're like a rebranded RE003, like Bridgestone, which is, they're an older tire. They're like 320 tread wear. You know, I would say they're like a really, at the time, they were like a, you know, 75% as good as a PS4S, for literally half the cost, maybe less than half the cost. So at the time, that was a pretty good tire choice for me, because I wasn't planning on tracking it immediately. Wanted to just kind of enjoy it, and there were a few other little things I wanted to get done before I actually started tracking the car. So now the Continental ECFs are excellent. I don't have a ton of experience with 200 tread wear tires, but on track they were nice and predictable. They had loads of lateral grip until they got a little hot. They didn't get greasy. But I think the pressure just went up too much. I was aiming for sort of 35 hot, and I was probably more like 38, 40 hot. So that was just my fault. I wasn't really staying on top of my pressures. It was a little overwhelming my first track day anyways, but very fun. So yeah, happy with these tires. The wear has been very minimal even after, I don't know, 6 sessions. I wasn't doing crazy flat out, like, you know, start to finish 20-minute sessions or anything, because I'm still on the stock brakes. I have Ferodo DS2500 pads, which, yeah, you know, they're not too noisy on the street. They're not amazing on track. You know, I didn't get a spongy pedal or anything. I did bleed my fluid. I think I'm running like some ATE type blue or type gold or whatever the ATE replacement is. I didn't get a spongy pedal, but I did feel a little bit of fade. Mission's pretty hard on brakes. Mission Raceway, that's where I did the track day. So there's nowhere really for the brakes to cool off, it seems, on that track. So yeah, again, I wasn't going flat out for full sessions. I was definitely doing like, you know, maybe 4 hot laps. Ew, gross. Get out of here. I was doing maybe like 4 or 5 hot laps, and then I do, you know, 2-3 laps to let it cool down, let the tires cool down, let the brakes cool down, and let my brain cool down a little bit. So I think I use about maybe 1/3 of the pad thickness up front, maybe a little more than 1/3. The rears are like fine, they're like brand new still. So I think the 2500s would be totally fine on stock brakes in the rear if you had a bigger front kit. I probably wouldn't run 2500s up front with a big brake kit if I was going to be tracking this thing more extensively. But, you know, they don't squeak too much when they're cold. They feel okay on track. They don't just fall off a cliff when they get over a certain temperature. So they're about as safe as a, you know, streetable pad can be on track. yeah, so back on the stock exhaust, because I did a sub 2 speed house titanium X pipe built by a guy named Nolan. I think he's near Seattle. His company is Titan Fab Northwest, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that X pipe. I mean, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. I ordered it through Sub 2 Speed House. Alex's Sub 2 Speed House was super helpful, answered all my questions, kept me from making the mistake of ordering a totally non-resonated version after asking me sort of what my plans were for rear section and stuff. I was kind of caught up in the whole, like, I'll get the lightest exhaust possible, but the resonators maybe add like 2 pounds total. I mean, it's still an insanely light exhaust. I can lift it with one hand, like over my head while it's fully assembled. It's wild. The fabrication quality is, second to none. It's a really, really nice piece. Totally unnecessary expense, but just one of those things where if I change anything on this car, I sort of want to just put the nicest thing I can put on it. I don't know. Seems it's a good car. It deserves things that are nice, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, like doing a Mach Schnell X pipe or something like that is probably way more cost effective. And do I really feel the extra 10 pounds less? Maybe not, but it is a lighter spec, and it's kind of fun to see like how light I can make it without making it annoying to drive. I've definitely made all of my cars except for the E92 M3 annoying to drive at some point or another. So I'm really towing the line on this one. So, a couple pounds here, a couple pounds there. It does add up. I think the car weighs it's under 3,500 pounds. Like it's 3,450, 3,460, something like that. I did actually weigh it with like half a tank of fuel at work because we have a commercial scale at work. So I mean, for a car that has a full interior, I know I changed out the seats and stuff, but for a full interior and a stock exhaust on the rear, it's a pretty good weight savings. Or I guess I shouldn't say savings, but I think that's a pretty good weight for a car that's sort of known to be heavy. What else? Yeah, I really like how the stock exhaust looks, actually. I really don't like the tips on any of the aftermarket stuff. The titanium Acura ones are okay, but I don't know, man. It's so good. It's just well designed, understated. I'm old. I don't know. So, yeah, that's kind of it for exterior, I guess. Yeah, talk about the interior next, even though I sort of poked around in here. Yeah, after the coilovers, I was pretty happy with how the car was driving. So I had a Zeta 2 in here, which was fine. Had it in my 180. I also had it in my E46. I had that seat for a long time. Still really like it. And ended up moving on to my sim rig. Whoops. And yeah, I kind of wanted to just try out Recaros. I think that I don't know. I mean, everyone puts Recaros in BMWs, but I initially wanted pole position ABEs. And the reason I wanted the ABEs is because the hip area where the seatbelt passes through is wider. It makes it so you can run the stock seatbelt receptacle, which you can see there, through the hole, and not have to, you don't have to take the seatbelt pretensioner out or use one of the rear seatbelt receptacles, which is what I was doing on the Zeta, which, I don't know, it's just like a safety thing, I guess. I mean, I guess putting bucket seats in your car is kind of stupid if you're worried about safety on a car that doesn't have a harness, but I just figured not messing with the safety systems that are already in the car. Like, I don't know, it's not a Civic. This thing, I know it's not the fastest car in the world, but it's fast enough that, like, if you push the car on a back road where you're kind of starting to enjoy it, or on the track, like, it's fast enough that, I don't know, I don't know that I want to crash at 150, 160 because it gets there in a hurry. That's kilometers an hour, not 150 miles an hour. Probably goes that fast with enough room, but anyway, yeah, so I wanted ABEs, but during COVID they were like totally out of stock. I can't remember the guy's name. Maybe I'll find the link for his eBay store or whatever and post it in here, but he seemed to think he had some velour ABEs in stock, pole position ABEs. So I actually wire transferred him money, and then he sent me a message saying, I'm so sorry, I don't actually have them in stock. So he did have this set of SPG XLs, and yeah, the SPG XLs are the same seats that are in the E92 M3 GTS. So, I mean, I wasn't super against it. I don't know that I love the way that the bigger harness holes look, but obviously as an XL seat, it's meant for taller people. I am a taller people, so that's fine. But now I'm happy that I have them. I ended up getting a pretty good deal on these. He didn't charge me very much more than the ABEs because it was his mistake. And yeah, just good customer service, honestly, to sort of make things right. Shipped them by sea. They showed up about 5 weeks later from Germany, brand new in the box, and yeah, first time I've ever bought new seats, and pretty happy with them. Yeah, I liked the narrower seats, like the Zeta. I probably would have liked a regular pole position better, but again, the trade-off was the XLs have these wider bolsters, and they're designed to use a stock seatbelt receptacle as an option, obviously, as well as a harness. So yeah, there's no airbag lights or seatbelt restraint device lights on the dash. I coated out the airbag lights, the seat airbags, obviously because I removed the stock seats, but everything else, the pre-tensioner still works, all the airbags still work. There's no codes, nothing funny going on. Yeah, I got a P3 vent gauge. So this thing here, it's like a little LCD readout. I mostly use it as a coolant temperature gauge, but yeah, it reads all sorts of can readouts. So it's got like EGTs, wideband AFR, because I believe the front O2 sensors on these, there's 4 O2 sensors total, but the forward ones on both banks are wideband sensors. So I think they're trustworthy enough anyways for what I do with the car. Uncorrected speed readout, shift lights, RPM readout, whatever, I don't know. But like I said, I mostly just use it as a coolant temp gauge. It's nice to know, because these cars don't have a coolant temperature gauge, they just have a oil temperature gauge, which I think the oil temperature gauge might not be like accurate oil temperature, because I think it sort of reads like a mix of coolant and oil. I'm not totally positive on that one. It's just something that I read a long time ago on the forums. But anyways, I mean, oil, coolant, who cares? I did the carbon leather trim. This car came with brushed aluminum trim. I didn't really like the look of the brushed aluminum trim, but the carbon leather was always sort of my favorite. So I got a set of that. Got the doors in the rear section as well. Yeah, pretty happy with the interior. Got some sporty floor mats. And I don't know. That's pretty much it, I guess. That's 26 minutes, 27 minutes. That's obnoxiously long already. So yeah, like I said, I don't know if anybody cares about any of this stuff, but I figured I should make a quick video before I put this thing away for winter. I've only got a couple more weeks of insurance, or a week and a half of insurance. So yeah, I guess that's that. Oh yeah, so I did have an E46 M3 before this. Really liked the E46 M3 visually. It was very fun to drive. I did not like the way that the E46 M3 sounded. The S54 is a cool engine. The power delivery is good. You know, it's exciting to drive, but I just didn't get the raspy thing. It wasn't really for me. So I always kind of wanted an E92 M3 when they first came out. Like, I mean, I was 16 when these things came out. I can't remember, 17 years old in 2008. Like, I was pretty young, 16, I think, in 2008. Yeah, and it was just a funny car, like, you know, high revving motorsport inspired type of engine, I guess. I don't know, it's not that far off of like a P65. Sorry for all the noise again. Yeah, they sort of designed this thing like before the 2008 financial crisis, so I think every car manufacturer was sort of just going ham, building crazy stuff, and you know, the Mercedes and Audis of the day were cool too, but they built this thing in a wind tunnel. I mean, like, even the exhaust is pretty funny. Like, the stock exhaust is kind of meant to be a diffuser. Like, it flattens out the bottom of the car, and just little things like, I don't know, I don't know if do the new ones have the hole for parachuting in the bumper. I can't remember, but it's just a silly car. I don't know, it just seemed interesting when I was reading about it as a dorky little car nerd when I was in high school, and I was like, you know, that was sort of the attainable dream car. Like, I obviously was into the Japanese stuff and had lots of the Japanese stuff, but I sort of, this was like the supercar, I guess. I was like, man, if I ever got something fancy, it would be one of these. So the E46 was great, but every time I would sort of be on, like, right about to pull the trigger to buy some stuff for it, like camber plates or tires or wheel, whatever it was, like I'd be right about to buy it, and then I'd kind of, you know, back out at the last second just because I couldn't really commit to it. There was just something about the car that I didn't want to necessarily keep it long term. I regret not driving it a little bit more because, you know, it was a fun car. I mean, I did take it on some trips and stuff, and, you know, it was great for that. I never took it to the track or anything, but they're great looking cars. The sound just didn't do it for me. The sound of this thing does do it for me. So, yeah, I don't know. 4 years I've had it, so this is how it is after 4 years. Pretty happy with how the car sits now. As far as stuff that I'm going to do to it or would like to do to it, I want to get some LCI taillights. Obviously they look a lot better, but I figured I would spend some money on just refreshing stuff first. I mean, like, usually if I do any job to it, I'll sort of do the while you're in there type of stuff. Like, when I did the suspension, I did ground control camber plates up front, and then new bushings for like the struts and everything at the rear. Like, I didn't reuse anything, I just freshened everything up. I did, you know, spark plugs, injectors. As these cars get a little bit older, the injectors failing seems to be getting more and more common. They're getting stuck open and hydrolocking or washing out a cylinder and causing damage to the bores. I'm getting due to do some valve covers. You can see there's a little bit of sweating in a few spots on this one back there, so it's not really losing much oil, but it is getting to be time to do the valve covers. So I'll probably go with some of the NRW ones, and while I'm in there, I'll do one of the new metal Vanos cover solutions. I don't know if I'll end up going with the Slonic. I'd really prefer to get like the Emporium bolt-on ones, but yeah, I know that that's a little more involved. you have to retime it, so we'll just see. But I would definitely prefer to get those. The plastic Vanos covers, okay, nice. The plastic Vanos covers seem to be more commonly breaking, and little pieces of them fall down, and you can get oil starvation if it gets into the pickup, that kind of stuff. So mine look okay on the passenger side. Underneath the oil cap, I can't see any issues there. I don't know about the driver's side. You'd never know until you actually pull the valve cover off, but it's time to do that stuff. I did a oil filter housing gasket this spring, and I did a water pump and belts and pulleys while I was in there. I don't know, it's just preventative stuff. Anyway, that's 32 minutes. That's totally like self-indulgent enough, I think. So yeah, that's it. Sorry it's covered in bugs, but that's my car for now. Okay.